So today we're going to be talking about training.
Yep.
We have covered sales.
Yep.
We've covered recruiting people.
Yep.
We've covered managing people.
Yep.
We've all covered more of these because you've probably still got lots more to say about these topics.
Covers the light.
Yeah.
Talked about.
However, one thing we've not specifically focused on is training people.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you hire a person and then you need to train them to turn them into a good salesperson. So what do you think, let's say you've got a new salesperson, what are the core skills that you need to focus on when you first get a new person through the door who wants to learn sales?
I think the core skills, so what are the core skills for teaching a brand new salesperson with no experience then? I think the first thing you got to teach a brand new salesperson is the mentality of sales. Sales is a game of rejection. So you got to teach people how to be strong-willed. You got to teach them a thing called law of average, which is the more times you do something, the more chance you got at being successful, right? I'm not going to get into the fine details, but I would always teach mentality. Even if somebody I was training in business, I'd teach them the mentality first, because the mentality's 99% of the time, that's either equals success or failure, especially in sales. Because if you give them all the skill in the world and give them all the product knowledge in the world, but they don't have the right mentality for sales, they're not going to survive in sales. So I think the first core value I would teach someone is the right attitude for a salesperson. You need to have a winning mentality. You need to understand that you're going to get more rejection than you are yes. You need to understand it's a game. You need to understand that there's going to be good times and bad times. There's very high highs, but there's also very low lows. So I would teach mentality first. I would teach product knowledge and skills second. So I think that's the stuff I would teach us. But mentality for me, you take someone who's a low skill set in sales, but a really strong mentality and a strong work ethic, that person's still going to go find customers. Take somebody with a high skill set, but bad attitude, they're not going to do a lot of sales.
Yeah, and I suppose it is also quite a unique environment in the sense of there's not many, there is, but not loads of other jobs out there that people have had to face a level of rejection that you would do in sales and all that, the negatives and quote marks. I know you don't like to say negatives, but it's not normal to people when they come from other industries and other roles. So I think that is probably the biggest lesson that they also need to learn when they first come in.
Yeah, of course.
So it's important to just do that from the offset.
Well, if you think about the other things where you get into something that's very negative, right? There's loads of other jobs you can get where there's a lot of not rejection as such, but things that would put you under pressure and things that would definitely mess with your head. The Marines used to do this advert, and it was class. It was years ago, and it says 99% need not apply. And what they were basically saying, it wasn't the physical side of it. They were saying it's more, and it was somewhere along the lines of that being a Marine is more mental than physical. So it's inside you, it's mental toughness, and the same with the Navy SEALs and the SAS and the SBS. Mostly it's their mental abilities. A lot of people who are physically capable are going through their processes, but mentally, and it's the same with sales, right? I think sales is easy. I think the rejection you have to put up with in order to find a sale. If you're somebody who's a cold call, even if you're cold calling, sending emails, you got to send. We sent a guy emails for 7 months. 7 months of constant emails, being creative, sending emails, and getting ignored, like literally getting ignored, is going to mess with your mind. And there's loads of times you're like, is it worth it? Is it not? But being mentally strong for me is a superpower in sales. Yeah. So yeah, teach you first. But anything where it's going to be, where there's going to be a high level of difficulty and negatives or obstacles where you're going to be pushed back and it's not easy, I think they teach mentality first and see if you're mentally strong enough, because you can have all the skill on the planet, but if you fold under pressure, it's not going to do you any favours.
Not going to help you at all. So how do you structure it? You've got a new person come in. How do you structure your sales training process?
I always set someone up in sales with a mentor.
Okay.
I have the same process for training anybody in anything, which is I do, we do, you do. I'll explain that to you. It's the same way I train my kids, which is I do, which is I'm going to show you how to do something. So I'm going to show you success. So I think the first thing you have to do when you're training people in sales is show people how to sell. I think loads of people learn a lot better from visual, especially not everyone, but the majority of people I've found in my 22 years in sales, which is 22 years next month actually. Most people that come into sales are visual learners. Most, not everybody, but the most visual learners. So I found the best process is to set them up with someone to watch actually conducting sales first. Then we do it together, where I'm there, where I can kind of coach you through and build your confidence a little bit. Just make sure you're making those little tweaks, and then only then can you go do it. So I show you it working first. I help you make it work for you, and then I'll let you go. I'll let you go do it after that. But that's the same training process I would do when teaching somebody how to do calls. Or
Yeah, you did that with me.
You did it. Yeah, just like I'll do it. But we can go back to leader. That's why if I'm training people in sales, I should be good at sales, right? Because I need to show people me doing sales. So if I was doing phone sales, I would jump on the phone and do phone sales for a day, maybe 3 days, depending on the person. It also depends on how quick someone picks things up. I watched a girl for the day my first day in sales, and I never had to watch anybody after that. I watched for little tricks to upskill myself later on when I was trying to get better. But the general gist of it, I watched her for a full day. She actually went to do the whole we do thing the next day. Her name's Katrina. She was awesome. She's done tons of sales in front of me. I took notes and I watched her for a full day. I learned the pitch, or the general pitch. I had a strong mentality anyway from my sporting background. Maybe where I grew up gave me a tough mentality. I'll blame it in the sporting background for now. So I didn't have a problem with the rejection part of things or the mental toughness side of things. And so the very next day, I skipped the we do part. She's like, let's work together. And I'm like, I watched you for a full, I'm good. And I went straight into the I do part. Not everybody's me. Some people need to do the watch longer. Some people need to do the we do a wee bit longer before they go do it themselves.
So with the we do part, does that change as the longer they've been it? So what I mean by that, in the first part when you're doing it together, would they maybe do 10% of the sales pitch and then you do the other 90%, and then when they're comfortable with that, would it go into them doing 20% and you do 80% of it? Like, is it like growing what they do so they grow into the you do?
Depends on the person. It depends on the person. Some people like jumping in the deep end without water wings and learning how to swim. Me, I'm just teaching my kids to swim by. A wee bit more. I remember kicking my 7-year-old in the pool without her water wings, and like she'll figure it out. Thought she was getting a bit too old to wear water wings, so I'm like,
What are water wings? Like armbands?
Yeah, armbands.
Right.
Water wings. Never heard that before?
No.
Didn't reach Africa, no?
No.
Okay. So it depends on the person. It depends on what type of learner someone is. When I'm training people, I always ask them how they like to be taught. Do you want? I learned to go a bike without training wheels. I've never ever as a child went on a bike where, you know what training wheels are?
Like stabilisers.
Stabilisers. Yeah. Oh, I thought that was more a British word than training wheels. That's why I use training wheels for you. There you go. So that reached them then, right? And my mum told me that I refused to go on a bike with that, and I learned to go on a bike without.
Yeah.
It's just been my way of learning as let
Chuck
me go
me in the deep end and see what happens.
Let me do it. I remember even when I was starting to interview people and someone's like, you don't know what you're doing yet, and I'm like, well, just let me do them and I'll figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
I like learning like that. It causes me more pain. I fail a lot harder and fail a lot faster, but I learn quicker.
Yeah.
That way, but not everybody's me, which is one of the questions that I know you're going to ask later is what I would change. And so that not everybody's me. So I think figuring out what type of person you're dealing with and then figuring out how soon you're going to go with somebody. So a person like me would want to learn it all and do it all straight away, whereas you might get someone else who, some people that I've done in sales before where I spend the whole day teaching them how to say hi to someone. And I won't let them go past the hi until they master the hi. And then when they master the hi, I'm smiling and having eye contact with somebody, if it's face to face or if it's over the phone, getting the right tonality, and we'll teach them how to do that. But then when they're competent and confident with that bit, then we'll move on to the next bit. So I used to have fun training people like this in doors and businesses where they'd say, hi, how you doing? And I joke and go, hi, that's all they're allowed to say. And I might have some fun with the customers.
Yeah.
So I just, again, it's a person dependent thing, but it's a conversation between me and the person beforehand of, there's a couple of ways we could do this. You could learn it quickly, jump in. You could do a little bit, I could jump in. I personally don't like someone watching over me. I don't enjoy it. I always feel like I'm not myself when someone's watching over me. So I'm like, just teach me what to do and I'll just go do it.
Let me do it.
And then if I'm stuck, I'll shout, I'll ask for help.
Yeah.
I'll never ask for help after that. I'm like, oh. But to me, if you watch someone, I think I really enjoy sales because it's a very copy outfit anyway. In my experience anyway, it was a copy and paste. It was like, if you want to get really good at sales, if you want to train a good sales team, you have to be exceptional at sales or have exceptional salespeople that they can go watch. Because I think if you can just give somebody the freedom to watch and copy, then I don't know, it's very easy for me. If you show me how to do something a couple of times, you won't ever have to show me again. Give me 5 books and it might take me a while to read it, but if you actually show me how to do it, I'm quite a visual learner.
Yeah. And I think a lot, again, generalization, but I think a lot of people that do come into sales are quite visual people and are not necessarily going to learn through reading and things like that. It's doing.
For the most part, a lot of them aren't the most. For anybody coming into entry level sales with no experience and not coming from corporate sales background or not, I'm not saying all people in sales aren't academic. For the type of sales we do, which is residential sales and cold calling, you tend to find a lot of people coming in with no experience.
Yeah.
And a lot, not all, and a lot of those people don't come from academic backgrounds. They're not bookworms. On the flip, I've had loads of academic people, so I think being able to facilitate both, because we have theory, we've lots of booklets, we have an app online to train people, you know, we have visual learning, we have material, we have books people can go read and you can go watch as well. So we've got to cover all bases, but a lot of the people that come in are quite visual learners.
So how do you balance that then? Because there you're just talking about kind of there is that kind of theory there for people that want to. How do you balance, especially in the beginning, when you're teaching someone, how do you balance the product knowledge versus sales techniques and sales kind of skill set and strategies? How do you balance teaching both of them but not overloading the person?
I think it's important for the salesperson to understand the product inside out, just in case they get questioned or asked a question, because you have to be more an expert than the customer. So I think teaching them product knowledge is super. You've got to give them the product knowledge at the beginning to arm them with anything they need to answer the questions when questioned, right? Because people don't, how do I explain this? You don't get respect because people like you. People don't buy from you because they like you. That's an old, people definitely will give you the time of day because they like you, but people buy from you because they respect you, and respect you is knowing more than they know. You go to the dentist because the dentist knows more about your teeth than you know.
Yeah.
Or why would you go to a GP if you know more than the GP? So it's important that people have the product knowledge and people know the product inside out. The best salespeople I've ever seen are the people that know everything about the product. They don't use it, but they know it because that gives them a level of confidence and a level of authority when they're talking to people, because they know there's not a question that they can't answer. If questioned. Now, 90% of the stuff you know about a product, you'll probably never get asked the question. So I think it's important to teach them product knowledge first, so they're confident when talking about the product. And product knowledge you can teach somebody in a day to 3 days, right? Depending on the product and how much you're selling the product for and how complex. Something like solar takes longer to teach somebody than someone switching broadband providers or energy providers, right? Someone selling a course for 100 grand is probably going to need more product knowledge than somebody selling a course for 10 grand. But I think it's important to give product knowledge first. Skill takes time. You can explain skill to somebody, but you never actually get skill until you actually implement it, and you never actually build your confidence in something until you do it and get the results. You can't build there's a lot of this, fake it till you make it. You can't fake confidence. You can't fake real confidence. So I think skill takes a lot of time for people to build real skill. There's a thing in football and in fighting, they call it match fit and ring fit. Like, you can do all the training you want on a training ground for football. You can do all the training that you want and learn all the skills you want, dribbling round cones. You won't actually build your confidence in your ability to play football or fight unless you get in and play football or get in and fight. So for sales reps, you can teach them all the skill in the world, but the best way for them to learn skill is for them to actually go implement it, get some feedback and evaluate it at night, and then just keep chipping away. But real skill and real confidence comes from experience and results, which takes a lot of time. Product knowledge, you can teach somebody and they can retain that knowledge quite quickly. So give them product knowledge first and then skill second.
Yeah, I think that's when you talk about kind of learning skills and things like that, I think it's easier to learn that when there's real life examples that you can refer to.
Yep. So
that's, I think what you're saying there is so important. If you need to get those real life examples and you need to experience it, how important is role playing in that aspect of experiencing it?
How important is go to the gym if you're a professional fighter or football player?
Somewhat.
It's a sport. I think it's very. If you're in a job that requires you to be a good communicator with people, and you don't role play communication with people, that's a football player not turning up to training all week. That's a boxer not going to the gym and just stepping in the ring. You're putting yourself in a lot of danger, and it could cost you your career. One of the things I always teach sales reps in whatever capacity, whether they're doing high ticket sales through Zoom. We got people selling stuff for us online, right? And they're doing stuff through Zoom calls or remote sales. You got people going residential, telecommunications, all that kind of stuff. it doesn't cost you money to screw up role playing when you're role playing before the customer. But if you screw up a customer, that could cost you a lot of money. It doesn't just cost you the money that you'd initially make off that customer. Because if I know that I screwed up a conversation and I lost potential commissions and lost potential money, I now have regret. Some people keep that regret for a day, a week, a month, and they keep thinking about what could have been. That could cost you a lot more potential customers. So I think role play, you got to role play your conversations and role play situations until it's second nature to you, until you don't have to think about your rebuttals or what's coming out your mouth. It's no different for touchy subject. We always seem to bring it up. It's no different for preparing soldiers for what's going to come. They've got to make the scenarios as real as humanly possible so that they react as naturally as possible in a high-pressured situation. Sales is a high-pressured situation. Generally, salespeople won't have a lot of time and there's money on the line, right? Somebody's going to close somebody. The customer's either going to close them and not buying, or they're going to close the customer on the sale. So I think a lot of salespeople don't role play as much as they should, but I'm going to role play until I get the words right, the tonality right, and it's perfect, like I was going to go sing in front of an audience at 180,000 people on the spot. So it's no different from learning a dance routine and a song. The more you practice, you got to practice to get it perfect, then you got to practice it perfect so it becomes natural, so that you can just do it. And the best salespeople are the people who have got it perfect. So every customer, every opportunity they get, they don't waste it because they don't have to think about what they're doing because they've practiced so much.
Yeah, a lot of the time when, there's been meetings that you've run and you talk about kind of role playing with people, a phrase that you always kind of bring up is perfect practice makes perfect. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make when they do role playing, is they just kind of stand there and just say these words and that's them role playing, and they're not that, when you talk about perfect practice makes perfect, if you've got a backpack on, you should have that on when you're role playing. If you use a device, you should have that device in your hand when you're doing it, and like practice everything that goes along with that.
Everything.
But another mistake that people also make when they do role playing is it's just they'll stand and talk to someone and just say the words, and that's, to them, that's role playing.
Yep.
So what tips do you have for someone to role play effectively and to role play in a way that's actually going to help them?
I think try and mimic the situation as real as humanly possible. Try and create the scenario is, all right, let's just say somebody in residential sales. Literally, things I would teach them to do is whatever you're going to carry and whatever you're going to carry, and like if you've got a bag over your shoulder, if you've got an iPad in your hand, if you've got any kind of marketing materials in your hand, like where are you putting them, where are you holding them when you're talking to the customer. Another thing I teach residential sales reps or business to business or anybody who's moving is don't just stand and role play, because when I walk up to a door or I walk into a business, I'm moving, which changes the biology of everything. It changes my tonality, it changes my heart rate, it changes even the way words come out my mouth. Like if I'm running somewhere, I'm going to talk a lot different from when I kind of just walk somewhere or I've been standing still. So even if I drop, notice how if I put my chest up and then put my chest back down, do you notice the difference in my voice? My tone changes depending on posture. So if I'm just standing in one place like that, it's not actually going to be a realistic version of me going to a house and having my chest out and being a wee bit out of breath and talking to someone, right? If I'm teaching telesales, I would have someone sit in a seat and practice, because you got to practice having the right, if you're going to sit in a chair all day with a headset on, have the headset on and practice, because you're going to have to learn how to project your voice while sitting down. Again, if you're practicing standing up, then sitting down, it creates a bit of... So I try and create as much a real-life scenario, just like how do fighters train for fights. They go on the ring and they spar. How do football players train for football matches? They play matches. When they're practicing free kicks, they create real free kick scenarios. When they're practicing penalties, they try and make it as real as humanly possible. I was watching this really cool show called Lioness on Paramount. Really cool show, right? And it's about these women type assassins, whether it's a real thing or not. And it talks about how the army has all these secret agent women, and they're called lionesses, and it's really cool because it's really
Cole Kimmin in it or something, is it?
Yeah, it's really bad. It's like really, really bad. That's right. I really, really, really enjoy the show. But they've recruited this Apache helicopter pilot, and so they're putting her in this shooting situation. And so when she goes to get in this shooting situation, they show her all quiet, and she's like, yeah, I'll give that a go. And she goes to get a go, and they're all making noise, and they're banging drums and doing all this. And she's like, why are you guys trying try to put me off. They say, "Do you think a war zone's quiet?
Yeah.
Do you think when you run in here things are going to be silent and there'll be no..." So they were like, but they were just banging in desks and making noise and screaming and putting music and playing it really loud because they're like, that's a bit... because
distraction.
Well, they were saying in a gunfight it gets super noisy. So you've got to learn not only how to get in there and have a gunfight, you've got to learn how to get in and have a gunfight with all the noise going on at the same time of people and gunfire and all this kind of stuff to create. That's why what did they call them in the army? Call them war games. Whether it has explosions and has all that stuff going on, because all the wee things make a difference. So the devil's in the detail. So the more realistic you can make it, the more efficient you'll be when you're actually in the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's viewing those situations as role playing as to get you better. So it is important to be honest with yourself and also with the person kind of training you of what you need to work on to get better on, because that's what you should be practicing.
Yeah,
you should be practicing the thing you're really, really good at. It makes no sense.
Nah, don't go through. I catch a lot of people doing that role play where they go through the motion. So if I'm somebody that's practicing closing a sale, and I'm practicing getting you to say yes at the end of a presentation, I don't practice how I get you to the presentation.
Yeah, hello. You don't do the start of the pitch.
It's a waste of energy. If I take that means, and I just practice the bit that I'm not good. Again, if there's a certain part in our game as a football player that I'm bad at, I need to play the whole game. I just need to practice that part until it's done. So a mistake a lot of people make with role playing is they go through motions and they don't role play well. Like if I have a certain objection that I'm struggling with people, which is, not interested, I'm dealing with something like need to talk to my spouse, I'm happy with my supplier, I'll role play that situation all morning until I'm really good at overcoming that objection. Like I'm literally will do it over and over and over and over and over, and I'll annoy myself. Or if I'm training somebody, I'll annoy them into being good at it, because you're like, when are we going to stop doing this? When you get it perfect. And then when you get it perfect, we're going to do it 10 times perfect. Until you can perfectly do that 10 times, it's called the power of 10 actually. When you get it perfect, do it 10 times, you never forget it. So we might have to do it 100 times till you get it perfect. But once you get it perfect, then we've got to do it perfectly. And if we do it perfectly 7 times and screw up, we're going to go back to 1 again. And that's how I used to call it drilling people. I used to say to people when I was training them in sales, I'm like, there's only 2 things happen when you work with me. You get good or you quit.
Yeah.
That when you join the army, it only happens. You become a tough soldier at the end of the training or you quit. You get into the Navy SEALs, you get into SBS, or the SBS, only 2 things happen. You either get at the end or you quit. And it's designed to be tough because those things are designed to produce better people. And so when you get into sales and you want to be, I'm guessing nobody goes into sales to be a bad salesperson, right? No. It's designed to be tough so that it produces good people, but they good people have loads of success. We just had an 18-year-old kid buy his first car. He's 18, he bought his first car cash. That was nuts from field sales, because he's obsessed by getting every tiny single little bit right, like obsessed. Probably which is why he makes so much money. So you got to get obsessed by being good, but to say you're obsessed by being good but not willing to put in the work to practice so that when you're in the game you're better, then that's nuts.
So you must see, obviously, when people come in and they're just kind of starting out, you will see people make mistakes, and there will be kind of common mistakes that everyone does tend to make in the beginning. How do you address these when you do start training someone?
Address what?
The common mistakes that people make.
I tell them before that they're going to make loads. When people's first day in sales, I actually tell them to make as many mistakes as possible and count them, come back and tell me how many mistakes they make. I actually encourage mistakes. So that's how you learn. So I address them by normalising it and making sure people know it's all right to make a mistake. I address it by telling people that once is a mistake, twice is a choice. So if you make a mistake, it's fine, but we need to quickly establish what the mistake was and then quickly figure out how to fix it and then practice it so we never make the same mistake again. So I encourage people to fail and make mistakes. I actually encourage people to, when they're new to sales, I actually encourage them to tell people they're new to sales so that when they do make a mistake, it's an easy out. They can say, like, let me start again or whatever. So I tell them to have fun with mistakes, accept mistakes, don't get frustrated, but don't allow it to happen twice.
Talking of not getting frustrated then, that's your advice that you give to people when you're training them. What do you feel like is your biggest challenge, and when you're training people in sales, what's your biggest challenge and what frustrates you the most?
People not meeting my expectations. It's not so much now, especially I'll talk about when I was a new trainer of people, when I was new to training and leading sales teams. I used to get really frustrated with people. Again, let's go back to what I says with how I learned. I watched for a day and got it. I actually struggle with selling as a 23-year-old, but I just like watched somebody for a day. She was a good example. She'd done loads of sales. She was actually the perfect example. She'd done loads of sales. She made loads of commissions, made loads of money. Do you know, I like to think I picked it up quickly, but if I look back, it's if she had showed me not a lot of sales and had made a lot of money, maybe I wouldn't have picked up as quick.
Yeah.
So that was good for me, but really bad when it came to training people, because my expectations of how quick people should learn was skewed a little bit. So I think my what was the question? What was my biggest mistake?
Biggest challenge and most frustrating when you were training new people.
Okay, so biggest challenge and most frustrating was just people not being the same as me, was later down the line. I remember someone saying to me that if I kept expecting people to just be like me, as one of my first coaches, right? If I kept expecting people to be like me, I was going to be in the same position for a very long time, because the more people in sales I could train, the higher up that, I suppose, the food chain you go, right? Like any business. Like if you want to scale a company, the more people you can train to take a job, you can move back, take on a new role, scale it, move back. So it's the same process, right? But my biggest challenge was learning how to have patience with people, and my biggest challenge was learning how to train people who are nothing like me. That's how everybody can talk to people who are like them, because you know how to talk to them because they're like you. I love when I get people like me because it's easy. I know what to say to motivate them. I know how to get them to learn. I know that they're quite visual learners, but when I get someone that's a complete opposite, that's a big challenge. There's actually a book I read that changed the game in that, called Personality Plus, for anybody that's looking to train sales teams. Actually, someone got me to, there's a guy called Christoph Gizzard who got me to read the book because I told him I was struggling. I was struggling growing a sales team because I was struggling training certain types of people. And this book made me understand that, I suppose that the whole thing I picked up for the book is everybody can be just as good, but how they get to being that good is different depending on the person. So I learned patience with people.
Yeah.
I learned that some people are going to come in with the same strengths as me. Some people are going to come in with the complete opposite strengths. So I learned that. And actually a guy called Derek Colantonio, and I opened my eyes up to this 7 months into my sales training career when I realised that, because he actually told me that his favourite bit about the job was taking people that knew nothing and developing things. And when I was a new trainer of people, I expected people to be at a certain level and get things in a certain time. And he told me my job was to develop people to do those things, and it kind of lit a wee light bulb in my head and changed the game for me. So biggest challenge was having patience, and my biggest challenge was I put too much expectations on someone who didn't have any experience.
I can agree that is a very good book. That was the first book you ever told me to read.
What was that?
Because I really struggle with people not doing what I can do as well. So I do think that is a book everyone should read if they struggle with that.
People that are really good at a job tend to struggle in that transition into management and leadership, because if you're really good at something and you get something quite quick, it can be quite frustrating when other people don't, because you can't understand why it's so difficult for someone. Yeah. It's my kid's way. It's a parent that gets math and the kid can't get math, gets really frustrated at the kid. They're like, why are you making this so difficult? But one person looks at a mathematical equation and gets it, and another person's brain nearly explodes. It's just, yeah.
So when you are training someone, what are some kind of key metrics, I guess, that you would look at to evaluate the effectiveness of your training?
Key metrics I would look at, I always just look at, first of all, they give themselves enough opportunities, right? Is someone going to give themselves enough opportunities to sell? I think too many people don't give themselves enough chances to sell. Or take email marketing again, like cold calling and email marketing, for instance. And this isn't a face-to-face is easy. We teach our sales reps to speak to 60 to 80 people a day just to find 2 to 5 customers a day. But even in email campaigns, like if you're not sending 3 emails a week for 7 months, right? I think first of all, you're giving yourself enough opportunities. Second of all, when you get those opportunities, then actually measuring how far in the conversation that you'll get with someone. So, anything for Am I getting past introducing myself? Are people allowing me to explain what I'm doing? Then are people allowing me to present my product? Then am I actually selling to them? You have a wee cheeky smirk in your face. Why?
It's a much more peasy answer than you gave me earlier.
What did I give you
when
earlier?
I said I would ask you this question, you went, sales bitch.
Ah, yeah, that's right. You says key metrics. You never says metric. I mean, ultimately, how do you measure whether your sales training's good or not?
Oh, great, good question.
I was trying to be more politically correct for you. All right, the honest answer when Amanda asked me what metric I used to measure whether sales training's good or not was sales. If I train somebody in sales and they don't do more sales, that means my sales training's shit.
Yeah.
If I train people in sales and they do more sales, it means it was good.
Yeah.
It's the easiest
No,
metric.
I get that. You were just in a very sassy mood this morning.
But that's my honest, blunt answer. And people are like, so how do you measure success? Sales.
Yeah.
How do you make more money? Sales. How do clients measure your success? Sales. Sales. How do you know if your e-com store's doing better? Sales. How do you know if Uber's doing better? Sales. Everything's sales. Now, there's wee metrics you can measure to get to that point, but ultimately, what's really funny, right? And I teach people this all the time. When you're doing good, nobody gives a shit how you got it. People only start to look at your metrics when you don't do good. People only start to dissect those wee key performance indicators, which is KPIs for anybody who doesn't know. If you're watching this, you don't know what a KPI is. It's a key performance indicator, right? You measure key performance indicators, right? But when you're doing good, the clients never phone up and say, how did you do that?
Yeah.
How did you put that extra 100 grand in our bank account? No one, did you email a thank you? If you don't perform, clients phone up and go, okay, explain to me what you're doing.
Yeah.
No one actually cares about how you get there when you are performing. So for me, ultimately, if that's how I measure myself. If I'm the person doing, so if I train people, so the other week, if I train people in sales and they do more sales, my training was good. How many times do you ask me if I'm running a meeting for a sales team in the morning and you go, how was the meeting? And my answer is, the sales will tell us.
Yeah.
Like if I'm running a meeting specifically designed to drive sales and somebody says to me, how did the meeting go? I'm like, we'll find out at the end of the day. And that's how I teach my sales managers to measure whether their meetings are good or bad. Not based on the feel of the room, not based on anybody's emotions and how people felt. If I'm running a meeting designed to drive sales and I'm educating people designed to drive sales and they do more sales, it was good. If they don't do the same sales, it was all right, maybe. If they do less sales, it was absolutely terrible.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true. So sales. To sum up everything you've said, sales.
Spend a day teaching you sales and you don't do any sales. I'm shit at teaching sales, right? I don't think there's such a thing as a bad student. I think this is responsibility I took on myself when I really got into training people. Like, it's not about your ability to listen, it's about my ability to get you to listen.
Yeah.
My ability to get a room to listen, my ability to get a person to listen. I need to find a way of getting you to take this information on board. That's my job as somebody who trains. So again, if I spend a day training you, a lot of sales trainers blame the person. The person doesn't listen. The person isn't that interested in what I'm saying. Maybe you're not that interested. Maybe the information you thought was good is actually shit. Maybe you don't have the respect that you should get for the person in the first place in order to teach them it. Do you know what I mean? So,
what advice would you give to someone who is starting out in their journey of training people, someone who's maybe just kind of taken on new responsibility and is going to start training people in sales? What would your advice to them be?
Get obsessed by getting good. Again, let's go back to when I got to the point where I knew that I was good at training people in sales and people came with me. I'd just say there's only two things that happen when you work with me. You either get good or you quit. There's nothing else. There's just, so I think, again, reading that book, I got obsessed by if someone spends time with me who's trying to learn sales, they should do sales. If people spend time with me, they should go home feeling like they know way more at night than they did when they came in the door in the morning. So I take a lot of pride in my ability to make somebody better when I spend time with them. A lot of people get into sales. We used to say leaders lead and trainers train, right? A lot of people think because they taught somebody something because they explained it in a whiteboard or a smart board, or explained it verbally to somebody. That's like, you hear this all the time. It's like, oh, your person's not doing sales and your team aren't doing sales. Oh, but I told them what to do. But that's not measurements. And what doesn't mean that they actually listened. It doesn't mean the information was good. So start to judge yourself based on, do people actually do more sales? If you're somebody that's training people in sales and you talk and they don't do more sales, stop blaming the person and start looking at maybe you're not actually that, excuse my language, fucking good at sales. They're quite frustrated by this. Oh, but I taught them it. How many times did you teach them it? Once? All right. How many times did I have to tell you one thing? 20 times. So I think always pointing in the way and taking responsibility for the people you're training. I'll keep taking responsibility until you get good or quit. It's funny, when you get good, I'll never take responsibility for it. I'll tell you it's you. But for me as a sales trainer, like, I'm going to keep training you and keep regurgitating until you're not somebody I'm training or you're good.
I also think another common thing that a lot of people forget when they do start kind of taking responsibility of training people is they forget to lead by example. So they will
trigger.
Yeah, exactly. They will.
I'm going to get triggered.
They don't lead by example. So they'll spend all the time telling this person they're training, do this, do this, do this, but then won't do any of the stuff that they've told this person to do. So they're basically saying, do as I say, not as I do. And I think when you're training someone, you have to be that example and you have to show them everything that you're saying in practice so they can also see the results, for them to believe that what you're telling them will work.
And something I teach leaders, right? Anyway, I call them whiteboard warriors. Whiteboard warrior. Let me go on the board and explain it to you. Let me draw you this big fancy diagram. Let me do my nice handwriting and use overcomplicated fucking words to make it sound intelligent. I get really frustrated with these, when someone asks this. Whenever I was doing field sales, my answer to a question was always, come watch. It was just always come. People don't, when I'm explaining respect to people, right? So everybody who I ever train has a mum. And everybody I've ever trained has a mum who got pregnant and went, let's just say they go the normal term of 9 months. And I'll always have this question to people who are learning to lead when we're talking about respect and earning people's respect. Because I have to earn someone's respect. I don't get it because I'm a sales trainer or I'm a leader or I'm a director. I say, nobody cares. No one. And to prove the point, again, we go through, okay, everybody's got a mum. Okay, I got a mum. Okay, that poor woman kept you in her tummy for 9 months. Yep, kept me in her tummy. You either commit the normal bit, or you commit the woman had to get her tummy cut open, right? So one way, shape or form.
Both not great for the woman.
No. I mean, I've watched a few of these things, right? Pregnancies and what it does to a woman. You have this wee thing inside your tummy. It drains everything good out your system. It makes you feel horrible for 9 months. Excited, but horrible for the most part, right? And then you have to go through this horrible thing called labour or cesarean section or whatever, right? Even if it goes nice, it's still not nice if it goes well, right?
Yeah.
And then this woman gives up her, for the most part, women anyway, this mum will give up her food, give up her life, give up her career, give up her body, give up all this shit for you. And I'm like, does everybody agree their mums went through that? Everybody goes, yep, totally agree with that. All right, cool. Anybody ever disrespected their mum? Everybody's hand goes up. I'm like, anybody ever went against everything your mum told you? Everybody's hand goes up. Anybody ever been cheeky to their mum? Yep. I'm like, so if you can't fully respect and abide by the things that person says, what chance does James, the sales trainer, have? Because I have my wee badge and I'm a sales trainer. And I'm like, you don't got to get people's respect. You got to earn people's respect. And I'll only respect you teaching me something if you are someone who's capable of doing it in the first place. I won't take... My wife met, I think we've spoken about this before, my wife met my health coach, who's now her health coach. His name's Aris and he's wicked, right? As we know, if you look at transformations, I got another photo to show you. Oh, my wife sent me yesterday, me, for health coach. I don't even want to put it on Instagram.
How big was your head?
I was like, Anyway, I look at my wife sometimes and go, why did you marry me?
Oh, must have been your personality.
It's personality. Anyway, but my wife met my health coach and he came over from Greece and he's a unit. He's not like a big massive, he's athletic and he's just fit. And she came away and she went, I didn't realise he was so fit. And I'm like, do you think I'm paying someone money to talk to me about my health and wellness, who doesn't live the life of someone who... I actually told him, I was talking about this to him the other way. I say I use him as an example a lot when I'm talking about leadership and him having my respect. And I actually told him on the Zoom, I'm like, I tell everybody, if I ever catch you with a McDonald's in your hand, you're fired. Like, we're done. And he just laughed and went, when would that ever happen? I'm like, which is why you're coaching me. But if I ever catch you with a Big Mac in your hand, I don't care what your reason, we're out. Why would I take health advice for someone who eats at McDonald's? Nothing wrong with McDonald's, not slating McDonald's. If you eat McDonald's, fine, but don't try and talk to me about health. I take health advice from someone that smokes cigarettes, vapes, binge drinks. I just would. I don't care how many master's degrees you've got in it. I don't care how many courses. I don't care how fit you used to be. I just can't respect what's coming out of your mouth just now because it doesn't match. The same as, and I'll explain this example. When your mum and dad told you not to swear, the only time it held weight is if mum and dad didn't swear. But if mum and dad swore as a child, you either thought it or said it. Brave kids would say, but you do. Not brave kids internally would go, but you would. When mum told you not to drink, but drunk in front of you, the first thought you had was, but you do. So even from a parenting point of view, like if it's you rebel against someone straight, even as a child, you understand hypocrisy. So first, I think leadership's everything. It's everything. Like, I'm only going to listen to people that are, like, I submit to people and talk, like, this health coach tells me to do something, I do it. Why? Because he's fitter than me. He's stronger than me. If he wasn't fitter than stronger than me, well, why would I? So I think if you want people to be more coachable, the better example you are of something, the more people will give in, the more coachable and the less stress you'll have trying to teach people, because they'll ultimately respect everything that comes out your mouth. Therefore, they'll listen first time. Again, the mum and dad who don't drink, who don't vape, who don't smoke, who don't swear, who tells a kid not to do those things, will get that kid to respond quicker than the parent who does. Because it's just human nature.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I think a lot of the time it mimics life. And like you said, if that's going to be a life scenario with your parents, and if you're not always going to respect them, then as a sales trainer, what hope do you have?
What chance does Johnny the sales trainer? I always say that to people, oh, you were good at sales and got a sales trainer job. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares how much money you made last year. No one cares what car you drive. Nobody cares what watch you've got on. No one actually, deep down to their core, actually gives a flying shit.
Such a way with words.
But I have to be strong. I only swear when needed, right?
Yeah.
But that's just, as I say, it's triggered us because I feel quite strongly. But that's because so many... I rant about trainers in my gym, just...
As a trainer, do you ever get to a point where you're done? Job done, I've trained them, I'm finished here, my job's complete, I can move on to the next. Do you ever get to a point where you've completed it?
The answer's no. People need constant reminders. Even if I've trained someone to a certain point, I've got to constantly remind them of what got them good in the first place. So you've always got... Now, will I be as hands-on with some people? No. Some people... Like, I always train people to become independent and not need me. I always train people to seek advice in other places. I'm not selfish with it. Like, if I was a PT, my goal would be for you not to need me in 6 months. Like, I pass on all the knowledge so you don't need me again. Still be there if you need me. I would say like a safety net. So I think I go for trainer to safety net. Whereas I'm here when needed. Whereas when I'm training somebody, it's like, no, I'm going to give you what you need, not what you want. Yeah. And then once I get somebody to, I suppose, to reach their full potential, then I'm there as a reminder and I'm there as a safety net if needed, but I'm maybe not as hands-on all the time. As a coach of people, I'm always trying to upskill myself so there's always value I can add so I can always develop people to be better.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it never really stops. If you've given someone all your knowledge and you don't upskill, then of course there's going to be a stop. But if I want someone to still respect, so health coach again, if he keeps going through the same stuff with me every 2 weeks, how long do you think it is before I get bored and stop paying him?
Yeah, true.
So if he's not giving me new material all the time and he's not adding value to me for me to get better, then and he stops coaching me, then the relationship stops. So as a coach, I've got to always upskill myself so that I'm always providing extra value so I can always coach people, especially if I make money from it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just important to remember that it's when you're training somebody, it is a two-way relationship, and you know they need to put in the work that they need to put in, but so do you. You need to make sure you're also the best version of yourself, because that's not fair to the person if you're not.
Nah. But again, lots of people who do that don't believe in it, and that's why we say trainers train and leaders lead. I used to get all these client trainers in, and they were just job worse, man. They were failed sales reps who got a sales trainer's job, who made a PowerPoint presentation who could have done in 10 minutes, take 8 hours to try and put some importance on them and what they were explaining to people. Used to really wind me up when clients sent sales trainers to me. I'm like, and 9 times out of 10 they were failed sales reps who just became a trainer.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot of the time. I'm not that good at selling, but I'm good at training. Shut up. It just doesn't. I've never seen it work.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That is your take on training. We'll probably do a second part of training. I think there's lots.
2 or 3 questions.
Lots more to it that we can do. But any final thoughts on training? Or have you said all you want to say?
I think once you learn the art of training people, it can be training's training. It's one of the 4 pillars of entrepreneurship, right? You got sales, training, recruiting and management, which is the 4 pillars of any business. So I think once you learn how to pass on information and make people confident in their ability to do a job that you taught them to do, I think it's transferable in anything. So we're talking about sales training specifically, but if I was to train in anything, I'd say this. I'm confident if I'm good at something, I can train other people to be good at it.
Yeah.
Because I learned the art of being able to build other people's confidence. But again, if I'm the one doing the training, I'd have to get good at it first, or I shouldn't be talking about it. Then I just point them to people who are, which is a coaching role rather than a training role.
You're a wise man, Watson. Thank you.
Tell my kids that.
Well, thank you so much. We will see you all next time.
Ciao.